Hi everyone, I am Alexander Zeitlin. This is the Lockdown Lecture Series for Beginner Cello, Lesson 2, adapted from the Alias Music Introductions course for the classroom. Let's jump into Lesson 2. So last week we basically worked on how to hold our instrument, play our 4 basic notes on every string, so you guys should be all comfortable with that. Let's take a look at what we can do next. So, at the top of the page here, we have a series of notes, and I will just briefly introduce how notes work, the very basics of what you need to know. I might talk about it a little bit later, some tools for note reading. Right now, if you need help with how music works, I suggest you ask your teacher, private or classroom teacher. But basically, all music is written on a staff, so 5 lines. There are lots of notes you can play, but as you can see, only 5 lines. So sometimes if we need to go extra high or low, these are ledger lines. So we have our staff and ledger lines. And there are a few parts to a note. There's the head, the stem, and then sometimes there's a beam or a tail. The part we're concerned with right now is the note head. Okay, so that tells you exactly which note you're going to play. As you can see, there's many things on the page to do with reading music. Again, if you have questions, ask your teacher. We're just going over the necessary things today. So this is an actual musical idea, a major scale. It is a series of notes that creates a musical idea. And basically, we just need to know what string and finger combination do we need to play each of these notes. If you follow all the notes, you can see that a note will be you'll see like a note, the note head is on the line or on a space here in the ledger lines. Here, for example, on the staff, this one is on a line, this one here is on a space, and so on. And basically, these are ascending, so the pitch will get higher and higher, and it goes all the way to this note, and then it will get lower and lower. So I'm just going to give you the string and finger combinations you will need to play all these notes. So for example, for this lowest note here, is played with C0, C1, C3, and then C4 for this next one, G0, G1, G3, G4. Going on, you have D0, D1, D2, D4. There's no D3. And then finally, A0, A1, and A2. And then it goes back down. These are the same notes, just in reverse order, so now it's the same fingers in reverse order. A1, A0, D4, bear with me, it's hard to draw with a mouse. D2, D1, D0. You notice I only write the strings when they change. I don't need to write, G4, G3, G2 on every one. I just write G4, 3, 1. We will use that concept as we write more fingerings. And then finally C4, C3, C1, and then C0. And you can take a moment, pause the video if you need to, and copy down all of these markings on your page. So if I want to play all these notes, that's the finger combination. You'll notice that some fingers are skipped, like there's no C2, there's no G2, there's no D3. And you will learn why as you go through more and more music. But for now, I'm going to grab my cello and demonstrate how to play it. Now, before you actually play it, I recommend, just for the practice of focus, to actually read your scale first. Basically just read it out loud or in your head. C0, C1, C3, C4, G0, G1. Because as you play it, you're going to pause and fix something in your left hand, and then look back at the page, and then you'll kind of be glad that you read through it and know where everything is. So I recommend just reading through it. But now we're going to pick up our instrument, set up our posture, make sure our end pin's at the right length, nice and tall. And now I'm going to just set up my left hand here, make sure everything's nice and rounded, and set up my plucking finger, and we'll get started. So C0, I pluck the C0, C1, C3, C4, going on to G0, G1, G3, D0, D4, D2, D1, D0, G4, G3, G1, G0, C4, C3, C1, C0. Put it all together, it sounds like this. So we now know the string and finger combinations we need to play every one of those notes, and that's very handy because, as you can see, the next song, we're going to take a look at a few nursery rhymes together. We use nursery rhymes just because everyone knows what they sound like for the most part. I have had occasionally work with students who have never heard Mary Had a Little Lamb, but if you don't, you will learn it now. For most of us who know it, if you make a mistake, you'll know it because you know what the song's supposed to sound like. So it's just a very easy tool to kind of make sure you're playing things correctly. So if I look at where this note is on the third line up from the bottom, right? So I'm going to find that exact same note. The third line up from the bottom would be about here. I'm just going to kind of follow along until I see it right there. So there's my third note from the bottom. I look down and I see that it's first finger on the D string. Okay, so I'm just going to write that down. First finger on the D string. And then I see that it goes down one note. So down from D1 is D0. Right? So I'm going to write down 0. I don't need to write down D because I'm already on the D string. It goes down another note, which down from D0 would be G4. So now I can write down fourth finger, and I will write the G because it's on the G string. It goes back up. I've already had this note before right here. So that's D0. So I'm going to go ahead and write down D0. I need to write D again because the string changed again. D0. And then it goes up one. I've had that one before also, so that's D1. Same note, D1, D1. And that's the first two bars of Mary Had a Little Lamb. So these are bar lines. It kind of divides up our music into parts. And then this is a bar, like from here to here. So now I can play it. You can hear what it sounds like to play the first two bars of Mary Had a Little Lamb. It sounds like this. D1, D0, G4, D0, D1, D1, D1. Or like this. So your job is to decode the rest of the song, to take the scale with all the fingerings that we learned and write in the notes for the rest of the first line right here, and then also the entire second line, and to practice it. So the practice for lesson 2, I would still recommend do your 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 scale warm-up. You could probably just do it once. Then to do your C major scale 3 times. And then to do Mary Had a Little Lamb also 3 times. And when you do this, don't go on for now. Just get good at these 2 things. And then we'll go on to the next lesson where we will kind of take a look at some nuances for learning the rest of the songs, and then also some beginner exercises to set up the bow. So that's it. That is lesson 1, and we'll see you for that's lesson 2, and I'll see you for lesson 3.